also talk about the fact that there was an alternative path for him and that he may have married somebody else. What happened with that?
Well, he fell in love with Camilla Shand, as she was then, when she was, he was 22, she was 23, and they were introduced by a mutual friend. And then he was sent off to sea. He was sent on to deployed, join his career in the Navy. And during that time, Camilla sort of returned to her boyfriend, Andrew Parker Bowles, who was always the one that got away. And eventually she married him, and Charles was fairly heartbroken when this happened, but they remained friends.
Oh, I see. So that was his... And you see, that's it, isn't it? And actually, Princess Diana did say at the time that it was true love and she really couldn't compete with that, which is, which is true. And in a way, I'm happy for him that he's finally with the person that he wants to be with. But when he spoke about his mother, and particularly at her funeral, you could see there was a real bond with her and a real connection. Did that bond get stronger in your view over time, and that they managed to get more mother and son time? Because with all the royal family, it seems that they're talking to each other through secretaries and never really speaking to each other.
You're absolutely right. I mean, they don't really speak to each other that often. But and also the Queen is very hard to approach because she wasn't used to any kind of moral conflict. She was used to conflict, but not moral conflict. So when Diana used to come into her sitting room and crying and saying, my husband hates me and everybody hates me and, woe is me, and start crying, the Queen just didn't know how to deal with it. And later on, the Queen felt that had she been more able to cope with Diana, the marriage, she might have been able to help a bit more with the marriage. And Charles then used to ring out and say, "You don't understand. My wife, she's impossible. She's impossible." And he would scream down the phone at his mother. That was probably the low point of their relationship. And then I think that the Queen began to understand the complexities of Diana's character and have a lot more sympathy for her son. And she felt in the end that she never, ever thought about divorce. She was horrified at the idea. Remember, she was head of the church, defender of the faith, and she was horrified at the idea of divorce. But eventually it came to that after Diana given that interview to Panorama, and she saw no way forward because Charles and Diana, the War of the Welleses, was overtaking every other news story, and that's really not what a head of state wants.
I can remember all this. Yeah.
You remember it, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Every day, and there were billboards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they go to an event and...
Carry on.
They go to an event and Princess Diana would be like in the shadows, sort of looking miserable and glum, and the cameras would be on her, wondering why she was like that. She never seemed happy when they were together, and they were always... It never looked good. Just very briefly on the book, though, how did you get all this information, Ingrid?
Well, I've been in this business a long, long time, and it was you used to have much more access to people. I'm not just talking about the royals, but there was a lot more access. It was a lot friendlier, and you gather things over the years, and people tell me a lot of things. I don't know why, but I'm delighted that they do.
Well, it's going to make a very cracking read. I'm looking forward to that one. So this is Ingrid's book, My Mother and I. Fabulous book. It looks fabulous, isn't it? Great.